Thank you, and it's good to be here and see you all. And I'm very happy, to share with you all a little bit about two projects that L'Arche Toronto undertook over the last several years. And I'm speaking here today on behalf of L'Arche Toronto because I was at that time, and some of you know that, I was executive director of L'Arche Toronto. I've since then moved over to L'Arche Daybreak, just north of here in Richmond Hill, and I'm there now working on a housing project. Can hear me? Okay. You missed nothing. So. So we'll talk a little bit. I know we have a very tight schedule. I try to be as concise as I can be, but we'll say already known, and at the end as well, contact information will be up on the slides. And I know myself, but also Cassie Wilson, who is the executive director of L'Arche Toronto. I'm more than happy to answer any questions afterwards. So the project that I want to talk with you about is the River and Oak House that L'Arche Toronto undertook in partnership with the Daniels Corporation in Regent Park. First disclaimer, we do not own these, we did not design them, we did not build them, but we partnered with Daniels to build within these two condo developments in Regent Park specialized housing for our organization. I will talk a little bit about why did we actually think about going into a project like this and how did we actually get there, and then show a couple of images from how these projects look like today. So the why, and I think that is for many of us similar reasons. We all, quite a while ago, did a quite in-depth consultation within our own organization with the members we support, who we call core members. What are their current and future needs? And very clearly, a couple of things became clear that should resonate with everybody. We were faced with quickly changing needs of the folks that we were supporting. There was a time when I spoke to our board that we were literally one serious injury or fall away from not being able to support somebody in the home that they've been living in for many years because we did not have the accessible bedroom available for them. We also recognized and knew that our homes that are beautiful single-dwelling homes in the east end of Toronto, we retrofitted them as much as we could. But there is to that, at some point there's a limit to that, so we also understood that our current homes are only partially accessible. And it was named to us by our members that there was a desire to actually have a home where they have access to everything within the home. Some members in our homes, they only knew their house from the ground floor. They were never able to go into the basement or on the second floor because they were not able to do so. With this project, we also wanted to enable long-term, so that people could, long-term living, the term aging in place in our homes. Many of the folks that we support, and also you do, have been with L'Arche Toronto for 20, 30, 40 years, and we didn't want to be in a position where they might have to move then to potentially other settings outside of their community, outside their known environments. So those were a couple of things. Then additionally, with the second project, we also learned and heard that people have identified to us they wanted to live in a smaller, quieter setting. Our homes were traditional group homes, 8 to 10 people living together. It's a co-housing model in L'Arche where people with and without disabilities live together. And people have identified to us if we could also think about options where the housing is a little bit smaller. And we also learned and heard that from those we were starting to welcome, especially transitional aged youth who had actually identified and named, we would like to live in smaller settings. So we wanted to diversify the housing stock that we had. And lastly, and obviously this is why we're all here, we wanted to give we want to have some input or impact to decreasing the waiting lists, which are overwhelming, as we all know, but that obviously was also one of our goals. Then how did we get to this? So how did we then think about a condo development? One of the things that people have named, or the report outlined to us, could you look into maybe building a ranch-style home where everything is on one floor? That was a dead end very quickly in Toronto because you cannot find the land to purchase it or build it. But at that time, we were members of the TDSA, the Toronto Disability Service Alliance, and they had a subcommittee focusing on housing. And some of the people who are here in the room were at that meeting. We actually met with developers and architects and service providers to talk about how can we work together to think about new housing models. And at that meeting, we met Jay Cohen, who is now the president of the Daniels Corporation, and he introduced their ADP model, the Accessible Design Program, which is very much focusing on accessible features within the condo developments that they were building. And so I had a conversation with him and explained to him that the members in our community, they were looking for a ranch-style home, and he basically asked me the question, have you ever considered doing that in a high-rise? Have you ever considered doing that in a vertical building? Because many cities, especially Toronto, lots of vertical buildings coming up. Out of that conversation with Jake, many more conversations happened and followed, and we were then able to actually have a strong relationship with them and partnered with them, and River House and Oak House became a reality. Now we're going to show that, how that looks like. So this is River House. This is the floor plan of River House. It's a total suite area of 4,500 square feet. It's the traditional large model, so the co-living. It is 8 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. We'll give a comment to the bathrooms in a second. But the floor plan is equivalent to 6 one-bedroom units. So that's what the architects and the engineers had to figure out. How can we potentially build this within the condo floor plan? We're able to do it. We built 3 bathrooms, one of which is fully accessible. One of the challenges that we were in front of and learnings that we had from this, we were not just building for people with accessibility needs. We had also people who were able-bodied or people who had other different accessibilities, and you learn certain things. I learned that in the building code, there are 3 ways of hanging a toilet, 3 heights. And because we were using the accessibility design program, it was the toilets were hung so that somebody who's using a wheelchair can easily transfer over. Great for a person in a wheelchair, not great for an able-bodied person, not great for someone who's using a walker, way too low. So those things you learn in the process. At the second one, we changed that. And we also, so this is just an image from the house. We had a very open concept. You know, if you look at the area to the right, the living, dining room, and kitchen area, this is a real picture taken for just a few weeks ago, really wanting to open up a space where the house can meet together, be together, where the life of the home is taking place. And just being in this space, I've been there many times and had celebrations there with 20 to 25 people using wheelchairs and walkers, and we were not bumping into each other, which was very lovely and great. So then an evolution from that project was then the next one, which we call Oak House. So this is under construction to be finished July, August. So we are getting close, July. A different approach, slightly different approach. So the floor plan here is 2 interconnected 3-bedroom units. So this is really in response to building a smaller setting. So this allows for people to, so the units are completely independent from each other in terms of functionality, and they have all their own bathrooms, kitchen, and dining area. But in the corner up here on the left, is a joint media room. So it allows for people to go through the apartment from one side to the other. It allows people to choose to be with more people, or also to say, I want to actually have a quieter space. And it also allows for the support structure to support people to be in the building without needing to go into the hallway and then back to the front door. They can actually move through this building. And then what I haven't seen it yet, I'm very eager to see it, but very happy. So this is a terrace that is all connected to the apartment and is looking into the courtyard of the entire condominium development, which is, I've heard, significant and will be a huge feature for the people living at this place. I know how much time do I have left? Sorry. 2 minutes. 2 minutes, oh my God. Okay, quickly, key learnings. I asked for 15. Okay. First one, housing is a long-term process. The first project, and it demands really patience and commitment. Our first project, from the initial consultation with the people we support to actually moving in, took 8 years. Okay, so it took 8 years. But then the good news is, once you have 1 under the belt, the second one only took 4. So we have moved it up, and if there's a future project, it might be 2. You know, but I just want to name that, because oftentimes you can get discouraged, you know, when you're in these processes. You know, obviously, if you look at the time, I will not say the C word, what happened between 2015 and 23, you know. There were certain things that happened that certainly delayed the process, but it's just a reminder that it just takes time. And there are people here in the room who are currently doing some projects, who have been on these projects for several years and still are several years out before the shovel is in the ground. This one we could talk a lot about, building versus purchasing. So at Large Toronto, we opted for purchasing. So we actually did an APS, so an agreement of purchase and sale with the Daniels Corporation. They were responsible for, once we had signed it, we were basically sitting back, technically, I'm going to give one side note there, waiting for them to call us and here are the keys for your place. But it was really important for us in this process that we did a co-design process with them. So we really met with Daniels in the beginning and really talked with them what we would like to see. They were exceptional in terms of working with us to designing this floor plan. It was very unique for them. One of the architects came up to me and said it was a challenge, because the unit looks very different than the 6 traditional units they would have had there before. That was certainly something I cannot reiterate strong enough to be in these processes around designing right from the onset. We were able to do it because everything was still on paper. So it means we could erase certain things, we could draw no lines. You cannot erase thick black lines. Those are carrying walls. I learned that in the process as well. But anything that's not thick black, you're allowed to remove. The other thing I just want to name, the key learning for us, and we can say from Lars Strohner, we have a tremendous relationship with the Daniels Corporation. They were certainly a developer who was very like-minded, mission aligned, and really wanting to help us to find a way of building this home in Regent Park. So when you are entering into relationships with a developer, really do your time, due diligence, to work with them to see that they really understand who you are, what the sector is, what you'd like to achieve. It's not a secret to our sector that our sector is still not very known out there, and so I also know that there was 2 ways we learned a lot from them, but I also know that the Daniel Corporation learned from us as well. And now I'm stealing a line that was said here before. This is my last slide. This is my last point. Okay. It's tremendously important, and I think, Brett, you have named it before once here as well. You have to have a board that is willing to take risk and is not discouraged when things doesn't go the way they are supposed to go. We had a tremendous board and continue to have a tremendous board with Lars Strohner who are willing to take these risks, to move ahead with this project, and, they're both completed soon. So, quickly, there's our contact information. Okay. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Raphael, thank you. The work that you are doing and Lars is doing is astronomical. So the most important part from all of that is this is why we have these cards that we give out at conferences, conventions. Take some yourself. Ask the builders to do, ask the builders to build.